Good evening everyone, and welcome to the Trend Show, a show that gives you more than 1,000+1 reasons why you should never give up and keep rolling up your sleeves and getting to work so that you can achieve the dream that you want to achieve. I'm the host, Hussein Robert, and this show today we are talking to Basil Nyariro, who is giving us a whole story on how financial management affected their family and what we can learn as youths and upcoming parents. On the other segment of the show, we're going to talk to Silas Brilliance, who is having masters in law and also an entrepreneur running a staffing agency perfectly well. Let's, without wasting time, cut direct to the show. Mr. Basil, thank you so much for showing up, and it is my honor to have you on this show talking about what matters in the real life situation. Before we go far, tell me about yourself. Tell the audience who you are, Bana Basil.
Actually, Bob, it's a honor having you around. Because Basil is an athlete. Basil was born in a family of 5 with one step brother. That makes the 6 of us. And apart from that, I'm also a journalist. Yeah, but though I'm still a freelance. Yeah.
Wow, that is so interesting. You are an athlete.
Actually, I have a team that is representing Kenya in the under 20.
Right.
I have a friend that is Ezekiel Kiprotich. He's representing Kenya in the 400 meters and the 500, the 800. And I believe that he's going to give us the best.
You're sure?
Yes.
How did you feel when Kenya was displaced in the Olympic?
Actually, I expected that because the training ground wasn't that fair for us this time around.
Yeah.
Especially with the COVID situation. It placed in a place that we have never been before. So we expected maybe there'll be a lap. Plus, Tokyo was a bit hotter than.
Okay.
As we all know, Kenyans, we do train around cooler places, areas like Ngong, Eldoret, Nyahururu, and like these places are a bit colder. So when people are going to Tokyo, and then you expect like maybe that change. And then with the quarantine, like most of the players were quarantined for longer period than others. So like we expect maybe if they were supposed to work as a team, then they couldn't be doing that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mr. Basil, the reason why I'm having you on this show today is that I wanted to listen to your story. You're having this interesting story that pertains financing and how financial management can bring a family from top to zero within no time. Now, in 5 minutes, I think you can give us your story so that we pick from there as we learn with our audience. We are youths, you know, and we have fun while we are having party after party. But again, after having party after party, at the end of the day, you have a life to live apart from partying. You have a responsibility to take care of after partying. So, in 5 minutes.
Growing up in a family of 5 really showed me a lot when I was young. Because as early as age 5, I've already been entrusted with some responsibilities. So, you know, like I had a mom who trusted me that much. So he could as well give me a responsibility to take, like maybe transacting her own account. Yeah, I could do it by the time I was 5, I knew how to use an ATM machine. But also I had a very protective father. Someone who could like keep you at bay, whatever you do, he could trust you, like you can manage this. And I think that was contributed by the fact that he also grew up in that system. Because my grandfather was a chief inspector, and that means like they were ever being policed around. So like when I was growing up and being the second last in the family, I could at times find it hard to maybe socialize because I was ever on books. Yeah, because you know when you're trusted with the responsibility, then you are ever on books. And then later on, I think we were introduced to a new family. That is my stepmom. She came around when I was like, I think I was about 7, 8, that was around class 2. And things didn't go well nicely as we thought it will be, because now the attention was now divided from us to the next family, and we expected that maybe our dad could be there, but he wasn't around. Then like management also shifted, because we were used to the system where we could manage our own things, our own way. But now here comes somebody who like want to change everything, and the changes that they are making are really impacting what we do on a daily basis. Like for example, running the businesses was now becoming a bit more hell, because most of the time you find like you do your sales, and then maybe when comes evening, then you have like nothing to present, because one, maybe the stepmother took in some part of the cash that was allocated for that day, or maybe that the stocking when it was being done in the morning, like you have something like high amount, then when it come evening, then you find like your accounts are fluctuating. So this went on for like a longer period of time, and that I think impacted how the business ran. So after I think 7 years, we were forced to shut down both businesses, both the transport and the bookshop type, yeah. So after shutting them down, then my dad did pass, which I think I was so sorry about. But at least the passing also paved way to a new system, because now we are transiting. You are used to a specific type of life, and now you are being put into a life that you're not used to, fending for your own self. But then that's the same time that I joined university, and when I was joining university, I had to go ask out for money, and like people are asking me, hey, you are Basil, you're the son of you're the son of that somebody we expected to be maybe an MCA in the near future. Then how are you asking for fee? Why are you saying like you don't have that fee to accommodate you in college? You are claiming you don't have that enough fee to cater for your tuition. You don't even have fee to go report to school. So I found it a bit hard to even try to explain to somebody that, yes, it was there, but I think the mismanagement, the person who took responsibility immediately after coming into the family somehow did not manage it well. So we ended up having like a zero account, which was scary. And given that both of us were still in school, the 5 of us were in school, plus the one, our stepbrother.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah.
Actually, he was joining class 4 by then, and like he has to be paid for tuition because he was still in academy. You know how Kenya's academy, you have to pay the tuition fee, you have to pay for lunch, you have to pay for the
it's
the
quite
transport.
expensive.
Yeah. So we found it to be so tough. Yeah.
Okay. Bwana Basil, I'm very grateful that you attended this show and you shared your part and bringing on board the management part of it. And in the next part that we are going to have, we are having Mr. Silas Brilliance, who is having masters in law, and also is an entrepreneur running a staffing agency, a company that is very good for upcoming people who are looking for job and so on. This is the Trend Show, and I'm Hussein Robert. This is the show that gives you more than 1,000+1 reasons why you should always wake up in the morning and go fight for your dream. Thank you so much, and see you then. Welcome back to the Trend Show. I'm Hussein Robert, and this is the show that gives you more than 1,000+1 reasons why you should never delete your vision, why you should not give up, and why you should always wake up in the morning, roll up your sleeve, and get to work. The first episode of the show that we were having earlier today was at the Greens, and we were having a show with one Basil Nyariro, one person that is good into athletics and really embraces talent. Now, you also talked about financial management that really affected his family. And right now, we talk about law. I'm honored to have you here, and I'm very grateful that you created time and you saw it fit.
I'm honored to be here as well.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Bwana Silas, you are having masters in law from India.
Yes.
And you are an entrepreneur that is having very good strategic plans on how to make the people that are looking for job opportunities get it easy and adequately. And
right.
For the employers also to work closely with the people that they want to employ, and so that they get to know them.
Right.
Not just on social media, but now where they can send their CV and their data well and safely kept.
Right.
I want to talk to you, and I want you to talk to us about law and what it is. But before we go that far, I want you to take a minute and tell the audience who you are.
Thank you very much. My name is Silas Brilliance. I am a lawyer. I'm a licensed human resource management practitioner, and I'm a pastor.
Mr. Silas, I wanted you to address this area of legal part that most of the employees do not really know their rights when it comes to job employment and all that before we get to business. Because today everyone is coming out of school or still in campus or all that, but they are looking for job opportunities. At the end of the day, most or a number of them do not know the rights, the rules and their rights that guides them within every type of job that they're doing. So please, what are some of the things that someone should know as an employee? Let's say as a person, I'm going to be employed by Brilliance Staffing International Rev. If I'm getting employed, what are some of the rights, legal rights, that within the law of this country I'm safely governed?
Thank you very much for this question. You know, the law in Kenya has taken care of workers, and not only workers, even the employers. So the legal framework, there are certain laws, there are about 7 to 8 of them, that actually cover workers in Kenya. Now, you have to, as a worker, you have to understand that you have certain constitutional rights, certain constitutional provisions cover your rights as a worker. And most particularly, if you go to around Article 27 of the Constitution, it covers equality. And so it guarantees that every person is equal before the law, and you cannot be discriminated even if in cases of employment. So if you're going to look for employment, you cannot be discriminated based on your sex, based on your religion or your color or your gender. So that is the one thing. There are many people who have complained to me and say, you know, you go look for a job and they tell you you're disabled, or we cannot take you because in certain industries because you are not fair enough. You know, your complexion is too dark, and it is unfortunate. I mean, in this country of ours and in this particular time, and others, we have the LGBT community who have a problem with even securing jobs. So those are rights that have been protected. If you know your rights, I mean, you can visit a lawyer, you can visit us, we can advise you accordingly. However, there are other constitutional provisions that govern labor relations. This is Article 41. And under Article 41, it gives us the right of workers. The good thing, it also covers the right of employers as well. So employer organizations like ours, we have certain rights, which briefly I'll talk about. One of the rights that workers have, you have a right to fair remuneration. So it cannot be that you, when you're a lady and this is a gentleman and you're all working on the same job, you have the same job description and probably the same experience, but because you're a lady, you paid less than what you deserve. So you have a right to fair remuneration. You can ask your boss or whoever is your employer and talk to them about this. You have also a right to favorable working conditions. So you should be in an area that, and even this is covered under an act called the OSHA Act, or Occupational Safety and Health Act. So the conditions that you're working should be favorable. And this is not only applying to the corporate space, even for those who are working in factories. There are some factories you go where you're not provided with protective equipment. Sometimes you could lose a finger because of the environment that you're working with. And in corporate space, we have certain fire safety measures that you should have. You should be trained on this matter. So you have a right to all that, because at the end of the day, we want to work in a safe space. And you also have a right to join a trade union as a worker. So there's some companies that specifically tell you that no, we will not take you in if they'll ask you if you're in a trade union that pertains to the industry that you are in, and they say, oh, well, we cannot hire you because you are in a trade union. That is illegal. That should not happen. You have a constitutional right to join a trade union, to participate in the programs of that trade union, and basically those are your rights as a worker.
But Silas, thanks for that adequate explanation.
Right.
My question that I would want to ask you talked about favorable working condition.
Okay.
Look at an example, someone that is working in a coffee farm somewhere in Kericho and so on. What, in your aspect, is a favorable working condition? Because this person will be getting very less cash, that is salary at the end of the day, that might not really support the whole family or cannot help support the children in school. And you talk about fair or a good or favorable working condition.
Well, I would like to approach your question from two perspectives. One, you're asking about favorable working conditions, and this I'm referring to the conditions or the physical conditions that affect or surround you as a worker. So take the case of someone who's working in a coffee farm. The favorable working conditions would be, one, providing that particular person with protective equipment, and perhaps it be shoes, in the case that they would be walking and get pricked by a needle or a thorn or some kind of spike. So a favorable working condition would be to provide that person protective equipment that is fit for the kind of job that they're doing. And then as far as the wages are concerned, there are certain legal provisions that govern minimum wages. And so in this country, particularly for professions as farming, there are certain minimum wages that a worker must be subjected to. You cannot go below those minimum wages, to the point that if you go below that, then the worker has a right to approach the court.
Now, that is exactly where I wanted you to get to.
Right.
You talk about the minimum wage that each person should be paid. If that is highlighted in the Constitution, which I think is highlighted in the Constitution, what happens in a situation, because now you want to complain, for instance, in this farm of mine, I'll be paying people, let's say, 5,000 in the farm.
Yes.
And for you as a person, you come to me with your legal understanding and advices that you've gotten outside there, that you want to be paid at least 10,000 in this farm. I just sack you and get another person to work.
Well, you cannot fire someone at your own whim and temper and wishes. There is a procedure that has been laid down by law, like in the Employment Act of 2007. There is a notice that you're supposed to give the worker and give them the reason why you want to fire them and put them through a disciplinary committee, and then get to the root of the matter why you're firing this particular person. You can wake up one morning and tell them you're fired without any notice. But the law also provides that in lieu of that 1 month's notice, you can give them a salary, you can give them a compensation for that particular month to cover for that, because there are certain circumstances where you can't, maybe the business wants to restructure and you're not able to meet certain expenses of the business. So you could give that person 1 month's notice, whoever is working for you. Yeah, I think I've answered that question.
As a typical Kenyan, do you think this procedure, these legal procedures are being followed when people are getting retrenched? Because a typical example I would want to give you is that when the COVID struck this economy, so many people were retrenched, and so many people worked for like a month or 2 or 3 with no salary. Yeah. Now, do you think these people you've worked with no salary, were they compensated at the end of it? So, of which most of them have not been compensated. So, do you think these procedures, this legal framework, do you think the employers are working with it?
I believe the law is the law. And the provisions that the law has given in regard to, laying off or firing people, they are not there, they are not suggestions. They are the law, and they must be followed. I also understand sometimes it may not be able to sustain a business enterprise because of 1 or 2 reasons. Say the effects of COVID-19. Well, it is possible. I mean, I could even dare say it's ethical for you to at least, give even a half of the salary that the person deserves. But you go 3 months, 4 months without telling them, and then suddenly you fire them without notice.
This is to them that want internship. Fourth Tech Global Solution is offering internship for them that are having knowledge in computer science, and they're also looking for people that are good in designing graphics and motion graphics and posters and so on. If you want to get an internship with Fourth Tech Global Solution, the contacts are flowing down there.
Yes.
As an entrepreneur,
yes,
talk to me about your business, what you do.
Right. Currently, I'm the managing partner and head of human resources at Brilliance Staffing International LLP. Now, Brilliance Staffing International LLP is a HR firm, or we could say a staffing or recruitment agency. I also say it is a social enterprise, where one of my visions, one of the missions why I decided to start this, amongst many other businesses that I would have loved to do, is the fact that there's the rate of unemployment in this country has skyrocketed. And I wanted to solve this particular social problem. Now, I understand that for every social problem, there are many root causes. which we would ideally sit and talk about for the rest of the show, and I don't think it's necessary now. But my vision and my mission was to curtail the rate of unemployment, and so I wanted to give a chance to young people who are looking for jobs to have a platform where they can approach, submit their CVs, and even before they go for their interviews, we advise them accordingly. You can give us, say, your CV, and we will tailor or custom make your CV to a point where your potential employer can see you as a potential candidate. The thing is, there are a lot of people out there who are skilled, who are talented, who are qualified for these jobs. The problem is certain things are lacking. Your CV is like your first impression, and a first impression is a lasting impression. And so when you're not able to put that CV properly, you're not able to put it in writing properly, then the moment it goes to the employer, they're not able to ascertain who you really are. So we help them with things like that. We help them with interview techniques, how to go about those interview techniques. And especially I have seen people who have this problem are people who are mostly in the IT sector. They are very, they know what to do in front of the computer. Very articulate with what they do, but they lack in soft skills. And so when they come, we teach them on how to navigate this issue that regards soft skills.
And execute what they want to execute at the end of the day behind the computer.
Exactly.
And Silas, I'm asking because you just mentioned something like helping them come up with a job-winning CV.
Yeah.
Do you people edit? Like, for instance, I've sent my CV to Brilliance Staffing Agency International. If I've sent my CV, do you edit the CV so that it be a official and professional CV, or garbage in, garbage out? I've sent it that way, the employer peruse, go through?
Well, a lot of CVs that come to my desk, like the ones I have seen, include things that really should not be there. For instance, when you're talking about your hobbies, you need to just include things that ideally would help in this job that you're applying for. I don't think some employers are not really interested to know you love singing. If you're not going for an interview that wants you to sing, you are a computer guy, how is singing going to help them? It is really none of their business. You can highlight some of the skills that you have. I love coding. That's my hobby. Okay. Suddenly, it strikes the employer that, wow, so if we have a person who can code here, over and above the job description that we give him, and it is what he loves, we can work with this one. You understand? How you present, it is more, we're not really editing what you have put there. We just edit the format that you people follow. CVs, it's good to have your professional profile up there showing who you really are, the rich background of experience that you have, basically. Then I wouldn't really go much to the format that we follow on CVs here. However, this is the crux of what we do. It is much of the formality rather than editing the meticulous details that are there. Also, some people have a lot of grammatical problems in expressing their CVs. And so you find where you're supposed to use an article, a definite article, use an indefinite article, which is not supposed to be there. So it creates in the mind of an employer that this one really doesn't know what they're doing. So it's just small touch-ups like that, and then give you an award-winning CV.
If someone wanted you to edit a CV for them, like now someone is sharing their CV and they want to contact you in specific so that you can go through the CV and edit it to fit the job that they are looking for. Edit it specifically, edit the whole CV.
Yes.
Would you charge, and what's the rate?
I don't want to talk about the rates right now. If you go to our site, which is www.brilliancestaffing.co.ke, you would see there that we don't charge for submitting your CV. You as an applicant, you sign in, and then you will upload your CV, and there are jobs that are there, so you apply for those jobs. Now, before you apply for jobs, once you identify the job that you want to apply for, then you can reach out to us, or you can call us and tell us, this is the job that I want to do. This is my CV. Could you work on it? Or could you put some touches? Now, we'll do a makeover for you. Ideally, we don't charge. But certain cadres or certain positions of advertised positions, we do actually charge. Some of them are very well high-paying jobs that everything from your CV to your experience to to your soft skill, everything matters. So in very high, well-paying jobs, we do actually charge a minimum fee, which I wouldn't want to talk about here. It's just part of the premium services. However, just if you want a feedback on your CV, we give a free consultation, and it's just part of the freemium services that we have. I noticed that Kenyans do not like things for free. If a product is free or a service is free, they feel it has no value. So going by that logic, sometimes we don't want to give things for free. They take it for granted. Okay. Right.
Employers.
Yeah.
When they come to the website,
yeah.
When they want to put their adverts on your website,
the website is pretty self-explanatory. What ideally employers would do is they come there. If you have a job that you want to post, you are directed to create an account. And once you create an account, you will provide the details of the job that you want to provide. Tell us a little bit about your company, what you do, and then tell us the number of people that you're looking for or the jobs that you're looking for. Then you will fill a form after you sign in or after you create an account. You fill a form. And after you tell us, if you have any specific questions that you will ask, you can simply call us. However, because the site is pretty self-explanatory, you just post it there, and then we will now post it for you in the group. What happens is, one of the experiences we found was if you're an employer and you come to us and you want to post for a job, and we post the job for you and include the name of the employer and the services or the vacancies that they have and the people they're looking for, other companies or other industry players would see that and go straight to the employer and say, you know what, we can do this for a cheap amount of money. How much have you paid these guys to advertise on the website? So we can do a much better job and we can charge. So they undercut you in. And so what happens is they end up taking all your clients who would ideally they come repeatedly to you to advertise, and you start wondering why am I losing my clients? So what we do is once you give us the job that you want, the job description, and ideally what you want us to post, we will post it under Brilliance Staffing International LLP. It will be something like, if you're looking for a product development, we say an IT company is looking for a budding IT company or an experience. We just give it, a budding IT company is looking for a product development manager. He or she must have a background experience in product development, must have these qualifications. Yeah, so we put it under Brilliance Staffing International. So now when people apply for the job, the system has a way of sorting this CVC. Some jobs have, you'll be surprised, because of the high rate of unemployment in this country. You advertise for a job, you will have about 1,000 or 2,000 applications for one job. And so sorting them out, even as an employer, will be very difficult. You don't have the time to go through them. A lot of them have not followed, the right procedure. But now we have a system that actually does that for you. So as people are applying for the job, there are certain questions they need to answer. Do you have 3 years of experience? Once they say no, the system will automatically remove them from the queue. Do you have a bachelor's degree in product development or something like that, or in marketing? No, it will put them on until it comes to down to the shortlisted number of applicants that you're looking for. And that will ideally come to maybe 100 or 200. Again, we will apply other layers of scrutiny until we come to what we want. So when we have about 10 or 15 people who are now qualified and they have points, even with the points, those who score the highest, we put them before the interviewer, and then the interviewer takes the opportunity to interview them.
I'm asking you this question based on what you just explained on how this number of questions will sideline others, and so that as it helps in sieving
Yes.
to get the best out of the best, also to reduce the huge number for the employer to get a few people to pick from. Do you think when you're highlighting this question, someone, for instance, a typical example we want to give that, someone like in the media industry, you find people that they never went to media school, but they are best presenters, TV presenters. Now, the moment I've signed there and said, I don't have a degree or master's in communication, don't you think my experience, which could have been very valuable to your industry or to the industry that is looking for a presenter, like in that case?
So, well, for every employer has their own requirement, their business requirements, and we cannot force employers to do this or this. We can advise them, we can suggest to them that, look, you have to be very flexible in this. So when you're framing these questions, or you want us to frame them for you, you have to be open-minded to be able to receive this kind of people. But you realize that education is like an arsenal. Education, for instance, you want to apply for a job as a journalist, and you've gone to school, to campus, and you have studied for 5 years. I studied for 8 years, and I'm still applying to be a doctoral student for law. And you put me together with somebody who has no degree, and we have to discuss matters relating to law. I'm going for my law. I took 5 years to study law. I studied in India, where in India you actually take 5 years, though they give you 2 degrees. You take 5 years to get your degree. Then your master's takes 2 years. And when I was studying law, it was every 2 semesters a year. Every semester has 10 subjects. So by the time I graduate, I've done almost 50 subjects. Then I did my master's, about 8 subjects with the research. Then I go for PhD, which is another 3 years. By the time I complete that, it's 10 years. And I go for an interview, and this one says, well, I haven't gone to school, but I can do this well. You see, education is an arsenal. When you need to remove it and use it, you use it. The person who does not have it, it becomes very difficult for him to present. Sometimes it's indeed they are more skilled, they're more talented, but the employer favors the papers. They'll favor that paper more. It will show that you're actually interested in this. You went and studied this. You invested your time, your money to pursue this. And I'm not discouraging those who have not. Part of the things actually, this one being a social enterprise, part of the other social enterprise I would really love to do is coming up with a college that will accommodate these people who are not able to go to school and get as much government funding or philanthropy, but put them through the program to finish their diplomas and their certificates. So they have it. Well, I am a strong believer in having that education. There are certain pitfalls that you might fall into without that education. So when you're put vis-a-vis with the person who is educated in a particular area, and you're put together, you realize that you're lacking in so many areas that ideally you would.
Talk to me about data security for them that are going to update their information on your website, looking for the employment or looking for employees.
We follow the Data Protection Act strictly to the core. So we do not compromise on the data that we receive on our, as far as the CVs are concerned. We really do not compromise on that. Also because there is a whole legal framework that governs that, to a point that if a person feels or a person has any evidence that his or her data was used wrongly, they can approach the courts and they can sue the company. However, like I said, we strictly follow. We have what we call, ethical code of conduct that we follow. Employment agencies are governed under certain laws. One of them being the Labor Institutions Act. And we follow the act, we follow the provisions that have been provided there, such that we have to follow an ethical code of conduct so that we help the people who are applying. So you do not have to worry that your details are misused. And I do know a number, 1 or 2 employment agencies that misuse data. Yeah, that has been provided by people. They do. They are on the internet. They show as if they are receiving those CVs, they are providing jobs. But ideally, what they want to do is take those CVs and use it for their own benefit.
Okay. a lawyer, an entrepreneur, investing so much in data security and all that, and having all this information. Talk to me about how the law affects the economy of this country. This is a country that the economy is just growing right now. How does our judicial system protect or affect the economy?
Yes. So, business and law cannot be isolated. They go hand in hand.
Sure.
If you start your business and you have no legal knowledge, you are likely to fall into certain compliance pitfalls. The law, as far as, say, registration of business is concerned, running a business, the Companies Act, there are certain intricate legal framework that must be followed in the law. Now, for businesses to run, we have to follow these legal provisions that have been provided, and that basically is what business is about, what the economy is about, sustainable businesses. So we cannot, there is an interdependence of law and business. I would say they are interdependent with each other and they integrate. So you cannot, I would even say you cannot, it's very difficult to do without, especially for big businesses, a company secretary or a lawyer. These two go hand in hand. Lack of knowledge of the law is not an excuse. You are not excused for ignorance of the law. Yeah. So these two, every industry has certain best practices that they follow. So law comes in between, whereby sectors within different industries can share knowledge and then set up best practices which are best within the confines and the permits of law. So law and business is very intricate.
I want to ask you, what is the contribution of business law reforms in building this our economy?
Thank you very much for this. Is a very good question. When I'm talking about business law reforms, I'm going to specifically talk about law reforms that relates to labor laws, because you're asking about the employment in Kenya's economy, right? So prior to 2007, there was the laws that governed labor relations were codified and they were based on codified acts, mostly from the UK and from India, to a point that it kind of caused confusion within the Kenyan territory here, within our specific working environment and socio-political and economic environment that we have in Kenya. So because of this confusion that it caused, for instance, like the Workers' Compensation Act, which was drawn from Workers' Compensation Act of 1923 in India, and it was copied almost the same. It really did not take care of the injuries that workers were going through within this Kenyan territory. So certain laws were, certain reforms were made, and then certain laws were enacted in the year 2007, just in this labor space, and it helped the economy. So part of these laws that were enacted, one, first of all, in 2010, the Constitution was enacted, and they made sure that they included Article 27 and Article 41, and majorly Article 41 that governs labor relations in Kenya, and that spells out the workers' rights, the employers' rights. It spells out the trade unions and employers' organizations, how they interact with each other, and matters pertaining to collective bargaining agreements. Those are called CBA agreements, which I'll just touch on them. I'm not going to explain them right now. So this was a major milestone that we had as far as the Constitution is concerned. Now, I'll mention Constitution first because it is the supreme law of the land.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, the laws that were implemented at the time in 2007, first was like the Workers' Benefit. It's called Workers' Injury Benefit Act. This particular act addressed now the compensation that workers who are in certain environments like factories and basically environments that might pose to be hazardous to workers. It provided for how they would be compensated. Sure. I recently saw a documentary that was aired by I think it was NTV, which was talking about the lead poisoning that workers were going through and they were not compensated, and it affected them, it affected their children. So this act now covers the compensation, that is the Workers' Injury Benefits Act, the compensation that the workers need to get after they are injured, and this compensation must be given by their employers. We have the Labour Institutions Act now, which establishes what we call the Wage Council, the National Labour Board, employment agencies, the framework, the legal framework in which they need to act. Then we have the Employment Act now of 2007. That one really talks about the conditions of employment that workers should be subjected to. It's just a guideline. And then we also have the Occupational Safety and Health Act, which now provides those favorable conditions that we were talking about. The act that every particular corporate workplace must put in place several safety health measures that the workers at least will be able to work in an environment that is it's not just favorable, but it's a fairly good environment for them. And then we have the industrial courts, what we call the Industrial Courts Act. Now, I must say the industrial court that was set up now has power and the jurisdiction of a high court, and it handles labor issues, employment issues. So it's basically governs labor relations. And lastly, there is the Labor Relations Act, which now governs the relations between employees and the employers. It governs the relations between employers and the employer organizations. And the trade unions, as far as the relations with employer organizations, relations with employers are concerned. So all this legal framework was set up just to to govern the labor space within the Kenyan economy. So I feel this is how the business reforms in Kenya has actually helped the growth of this economy. We still have a long way to go on certain matters. But I think that compared to other countries, Kenya is doing much better with their legal framework.
Bwana Silas, thanks for that explanation. I think the last question I wanted to ask you, and you're going to take like 5 minutes on maximum explaining this one. I know you are one person that is having a key interest in leadership.
Right.
And I know you've been one person that has been following the leadership of this country from time to time, and being that you are a Kenyan citizen by birth, the leadership of this country affects you directly, not in one way or the other, but it affects you directly.
Right.
I know that I think the other time I saw you highlighting that you also have some interest in politics and all that.
Right.
Talk to me about that one in 5 minutes. And where do you see this country past 2022 election?
Well, I believe it's time for the youth to take the mantle of leadership in this country. And particularly in Nairobi County, where I come from. And I also feel there is no other person who would do it better than yours truly. I'm an aspiring governor of Nairobi County.
Okay.
Yes, and a lot of people say that you need this much amount of money to get into politics. If the amount of money in your pocket is what will determine a good leader, then I'm not going to mention names. But it does not account for service delivery. It does not account for integrity. It does not account for so many things that a leader is required to have. In Nairobi, I have been particularly vocal in matters of house ownership, especially in certain spaces like Woodley, where I come from. I have been very vocal about environmental matters. And most particularly, this one has even led me to start the social enterprise of Brilliance Staffing International, is employment of the youth. At this particular time, especially, people are losing jobs. Yeah. And a lot of people feel they cannot be absorbed back into their, back into jobs. Even businesses are losing, profits. So they're not able to hire people. I believe as a governor, one of the things I would love to do is set up manufacturing industries that will absorb all these people. Kenya needs manufacturing units, and a lot of them. And this is one thing that I feel like I would give credit to President Uhuru for the kind of infrastructure that he has put up. And his agenda, his 4 points based agenda, which is, I would say, quite commendable. But when it comes to matters of employment, I feel that the youth have been left out. And no one is, people talk about the youth, but when they get to the table, the youth sees becoming the part of the discussion. They become part of the menu. But I want to put the youth at a point where we are able to determine, and I believe we can, we're able to determine our future, especially here in Nairobi, where I aspire to stand as a governor.
In a minute, looking at that camera, same camera that you've been looking at,
right.
Give them mentioning why they should give you a position in this government come 2022 or 2027, suppose you don't make it 2022.
I don't know if it is necessary for me to say this, but I am 34 years old. Next year I will be 35 years old. So I would comfortably say I fall under the bracket of a youth. Not to say that I am not going to take care of the needs of the older people in the other brackets. I definitely have them in mind. But you, I believe, have to choose and elect me because I stand for two main things: integrity and service delivery. I have a proven track record for that. Now, as far as integrity is concerned, I believe that integrity will make us avoid some of the corruption scandals that we are seeing, some of the embezzlement of funds that we are seeing. Integrity is the one thing that I see is missing in our politics today, and I stand for integrity. And secondly is service delivery. You want to see work being done, you want jobs, this is the go-to guy you're looking for. Thank you very much.
And I'm the guy you go to when you want internship. For the global solution, they look for you. If you know how to do design, you are a designer, you get these people. They got your back. They're gonna work with you. You're a youth looking for a job, employer looking for someone to employ.
Silas, Brilliance Staffing International.
They got your back.
www.brilliancestaffing.co.ke. I got you.
That is what I wanted to mention. I'm Hussein Robert, and this is the Train Show. A show that gives you more than 1,000+1 reason why you should not give up. Wake up every day in the morning, roll up your sleeves, and get to work. This is the show that you need to follow. Subscribe on the channel so that you get more interesting, more informative. Check on CleanShot Media so that you can follow us. Thank you so much. Until we meet next time next week. It's a wrap for now.